Let's take a look at some of the interactions and effects that the jQuery UI library provides. I'm going to start off by taking a look at some of the interactions. Now, I'm not going to go through all of these because they're pretty exhaustive, but I'll show some of the more basic ones, and you can always go to the website and play with them yourself. So let's start off by looking at the draggable behavior. This is a pretty common behavior you'll see on websites. So the draggable behavior essentially is not a widget in and of itself. It's a behavior that you apply to other elements on the page. For example, this div has been made draggable by applying the draggable effect to it. So you can see I can grab it and drag it around. And just like a lot of the other widgets, there's parameters that you can set on the draggable behavior. So for example, I can constrain the movement. This one can be dragged only horizontally. This one can only go up and down. This one over here is contained within the box, so you can see it can't move out there. This one is contained within the box's parent, so you can see this one I can drag outside that little div, but I can't drag it outside the parent here. And then this one here is contained within its parent, so you can see this guy can only slide up and down in this guy right here. You can also do things like delay the start. So for example, this one will only start dragging after I move the mouse by 20 pixels. And then this one I can drag, but I gotta wait a second before it starts following me. So again, the idea here is there's a set of behaviors you can apply to elements. So let's go back to the default and show the source. And again, it's as simple as just calling the draggable function on the element that you want to make draggable. So you can see in here that there's a div that's got the draggable ID applied to it. And then to make that item draggable, you simply call the draggable function on it. That's the default functionality, but you can call a bunch of different options to show the effects that we saw earlier with various constraints. The next interaction I want to show you is the resizable behavior. We'll see an example of this later on in our title. We'll use it ourselves. This makes any element resizable. Again, to use it, you simply call the resizable function on the element that you want to make resizable. So here's the div with the ID of resizable on it, and using jQuery, you get a reference to that element. You call the resizable function, and there it is. It's resizable. That little drag handle appears on it, and you can see that I can resize this. And again, there's a whole bunch of different functions you can use. There's a maximum minimum size, so I can't make it any bigger or any smaller than a certain size. I can have the resizing snap to a grid. You can see it's snapping very nicely. So that's a couple of the interactions. Let's take a look at some of the effects now. So let's take a look at the animate effect. The animate effect basically allows you to animate things various ways. The animate effect provides a lot of different options for animation that go beyond what the base jQuery library can do. It extends jQuery to animate all kinds of color options like you just saw there. There's also a couple of other effects. Let's take a look at the hide. So remember, in the jQuery library, hiding an element is pretty basic. jQuery UI gives you a whole bunch of different options for hiding things. Let's take a look at some of these. There's the explode hide effect. So when I click on that, you see the thing explodes and then hides. There's also the puff, where it kind of just puffs out of view. Let's take a look at another one of these. How about the pulsate one? Well, you get the idea. There's a whole bunch of ways that you can hide and show elements. Let's take a look at one more, the toggle. Toggle is the difference between showing and hiding. To show and hide this guy, and there's a blind effect, right? You can see I can blind him up and down. There's the drop, where it kind of drops in and drops out. There's a whole bunch of effects that you can use that are built into the jQuery UI library. And you can use these effects right inside your own pages. All you need to do is just call the appropriate function. And again, if you take a look at the source, you can see it's a matter of just getting a reference to the element that you want to have the effect on, and then running the various effects with whatever options you want. That's a recap of interactions and effects in jQuery UI.